Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Partner Awesome Podcast. My name is Jason Asher, along with Ryan Albretsen. And today we're continuing on in our discussions about partnerships and artificial intelligence and discussing how we can use artificial intelligence when it comes to partner programs. And today we're going to be focused on partner recruitment and predictive scoring. This is particularly of interest because, partner recruitment is kind of like the gas station, if you will, of partnerships that kind of fuel everything. So, we're going to talk about the pumps and then talk about the interfaces, talk about the credit card machines. All of these different metaphors are going to lead somewhere, I promise. But we're going to give you some insights about how we use AI here at Partner Awesome for predictive scoring as well as recruitment. Ryan, what do you have to say?
Well, thanks, Jason. I'm actually excited for this one because I think most partner leaders would admit, we often recruit based on gut feel, network
I got a
referrals,
feeling.
or basically who shows up to our events. But AI is promising to really flip that on its head. So, where do we start? Take us through that.
That's a great question. So we're going to start, we're going to start in a place where, it's part science and part art, right? It's not either or. Where we have certain instances like, hey, we went to NRF and we had a bunch of great discussions with this platform, that SI, this payment processor, that POS, this warehouse management company, and it all sounds really great because you hear about these logos. You're like, wow, you start to get this almost like lust in your mind that you want to go out and grab all that and get all that. And then all of a sudden, any scientific business acumen goes out the window because the animalistic lust is like, oh my gosh, I want that. And then you end up signing the contract and it's like, hey, we had a really great dinner with them. And we really enjoyed the whiskey. Where
Cigars.
are the deals? So,
Yeah.
a lot of this is really about, not so much lusting after this shiny object, but what partners should you go after? And not only which ones should you identify as the IPPs, but again, you want to start small, graduate, to bigger flow, because ultimately deal flow is where this is going. But remember, this is not a sales strategy. And I think that when you look at the idea of recruitment and predictive scoring, you're really looking at it from an ecosystem fit standpoint, not so much a deal flow standpoint. Your deal flow comes when there's a commodity that the supplier has that the distributor needs, supplier being the client, distributor being the partner. So that's where the predictive analytics really starts to shine.
How does this work in practice? Are we talking about scraping the internet for possible partners? Kind of take me through that.
Well, this is where artificial intelligence starts to look at, a bunch of different vectors of intelligence in order to get to the answer. I mean, is scraping a part of it? It is, but it's a very, very tiny piece. It's a very tiny piece. When you think about the ideal customer profile and you think about the average deal size, what does the deal book look like? What is their placement in the market look like? What does their overall profile look like in their market and their industry? You start to surface different prompts and different ways to speak to the AI to actually get what you need. So when you think about it, if you look at GPT-5, and we've been using GPT-5 now for like a week, Gemini is really our go-to when it comes to research. But I think what we found in our internal research is that the better we can structure the prompts, the better that we could structure what we believe are the main things, the more that we could have the conversation with the AIs. Oh, did you think about this? Why don't you ask me about that? That's where the whole idea of engaging with the AI to help us make smart decisions comes into play. If you just go into GPT-5 or just go into Gemini or Claude or your Perplexity, whatever AI you prefer, and just say, hey, find me the ICP, find me the IP. You're basically going to get a knee-jerk reaction. It's almost like making a comment on a LinkedIn stream or a Facebook thread or even on Twitter where you have this knee-jerk reaction, you get other knee-jerk reactions. So essentially garbage in, garbage out. And I think what we're learning as we go is to be very scientific with how we structure what we're asking of the AI platforms versus getting the immediate gratification. So you and I both use a lot of deep research, both with GPT-5 and Gemini to get the results that we need for our clients.
So basically, AI says, here are 50 companies that match your best partner's DNA. But where does the scoring part come into that?
So this is where the art of finding becomes the science of analyzing and actioning. So certifications held is important, overlapping customers, overlapping markets, what kind of marketing engagements are they interested in, headcount growth, stack compatibility, traffic trends, social media sentiment, are they in the right place at the right time? Because sometimes you'll find partners that provide services, but you're edge cases. Sometimes you'll find partners like, for instance, one of my, one of the really old relationships that we have is with the Nexa in the NetSuite ecosystem down in ANZ. They were in the right place at the right time in Melbourne, about 10, 15 years ago when they started Nexa. And Matt and Jared and the Spriggs family, they were really in the right place at the right time to really build up their NetSuite portfolio. And whereas you have other partners, in the region that struggled during that time, eventually they made it. So it's all about timing, and it's all about the situations that you find yourself in within those ecosystems. So going back to the main thing with a predictive scoring model, my main things are looking at the talent, looking at the marketing, and looking at how they're gelling and meshing with the market, because that will effectively breed success. And when you have partners that don't do a lot of marketing, we're this word of mouth, we're this and we're that, that's a double-edged blade. That's a double-edged sword, because there's unmeasurable data there. So, if you can measure it, you can succeed with it,
All right. So I'm going to give you a sports reference here. All right. It's kind of like having an NFL draft board for your partner ecosystem. But instead of scouts watching game tape, you've got AI crunching the numbers.
Right. I mean, the AI becomes the scouts. I mean, you
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. The AI becomes the scouts. And some of the digital workers that we're building at Partner Awesome, are exactly what that is. Some of those automated digital workers are becoming the scouts. And the beauty is, it's not just one client thing. The scoring can update dynamically. So if you have one agentic AI that's looking at an ecosystem, it's bringing back a certain amount of partners with a certain score, with a certain let's say draft score, if you will. And that draft score
Yeah.
changes over time. Once the score hits a certain number, that's a trigger point, to get engaged, right? So it's really a matter of how you want to do the value optimizing with that agentic AI to get that score where you need it. And then we call it the Partner Awesome. I mean, let's say Partner Awesome draft score is what we call it. I mean, we're probably get a better name for it eventually, but that's
We
really
can have
where
AI help us think of something better.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's powerful, but what about the bias? So if we're training this AI, these are our existing top partners. Want to find just more of the same and maybe miss out on other, markets that are more disruptive, like new types of partners?
I mean, look, garbage in, garbage out, biased in, biased out, right? And I think that, when we lived through our time at a NetSuite partner, and we saw them go from 60% growth to 1,008% growth, within a year.
Yeah.
So there's always the up and comers. And again, this is where AI versus the gut starts to shine, because once you see who the founders are, you see what their past accomplishments are, you see what their growth rate is, you see what they're posting, frequency as LinkedIn, you see what their website looks like. There's a bunch of different things that you could do from a human behavior analysis standpoint that really will help us determine why to pursue the smaller versus the larger partner, because of the potential that they have. And you and I both know, we know when I was at NetSuite, there are partners that are like 3-person shops in Uruguay that now have like 60 people.
Yeah.
There's Explore Consulting, which was a small shop out of Seattle that became one of NetSuite's biggest partners and eventually got bought by RSM. We saw the rise and fall of like a Suite Centric. So there's a bunch of different, things that I think we can have our gut analysis contribute to the AI, but then the AI becomes more truthful, because anything that we're afraid to ask or any biases that we have in our mind, the technology doesn't. So it's always going to be good to have a second set of eyes in that decision making.
No, it makes sense. So how do they actually start? Can you just give us, just in the last minute that we have left here, can you just give us like a simple roadmap?
Yeah. So you want to crawl, walk, run when you approach this. You want to first crawl with, start with what you already have, right? Pull historical partner performance into a spreadsheet, and then look for patterns. You can use Gemini or GPT to analyze those patterns, within deep research, but use deep research, right? I think the main thing here is we're not using the research tools, and you're not leveraging the research tools that exist within these AI platforms. You're doing yourself a disservice, because there's a lot of information there that could scrape the web that you're not going to get. When you walk, you add external signals, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Crunchbase, market research APIs, But again, all within deep research to weigh the factors. And then finally, when you run and you have that intelligence scoring, get into your CRM or your PRM. So it updates automatically. So that way, when your partner managers come in or your BDRs come in, your SDRs come in the morning, they're like, oh, the AI identified this partner as a new target, go after them. So yeah, that's really in a nutshell is a key takeaway, how you can crawl, walk, run with your, partner recruitment and your partner scoring strategy.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jason.
No, thank you, Ryan. And it's a phenomenal discussion. If anybody wants to talk more about it, we're here to talk. We're here to have conversations. And even if you don't need partner awesome right now, and you just want to just kind of like get opinions on things, we're here to help the larger partner community get on their way. So on behalf of Ryan Albretsen, my name is Jason Asher. Thank you for joining the Partner Awesome podcast today, and we will see you soon. And Ryan, get to school.
Got it. See you, Jason.